Hi everyone, Skarnek, Star Wars Armada Explained. Thank you for joining me today. We're going to be looking at the new Rebel officer from the new expansions. We're going to be looking at the officer version of Kyrsta Agate or Agate or Agada. Star Wars names, they're hard, they do it on purpose. So the officer version, how is it different than the commander version? Well, if you look in front of the name, you'll still see this little dot or bullet point in front of the name signifies they are unique. You can only have one of this person in your fleet. So if you bring the officer, can't bring the commander, vice versa. How do you know this one equips to the officer slot? Bottom left-hand corner of the card, you'll see the officer icon. Opposite of that, you will see the faction logo. She is faction specific for the Rebel Alliance, next to the point cost of 5 points, which I think is reasonable for what this card sets out to accomplish. Let's read through. So this card is essentially a critical effect card. So it says here, red or blue critical. You may exhaust this card to ready one of your exhausted defense tokens. You can resolve this critical effect during a salvo attack. Why does it say that? Well, salvo attacks, in their booklet, they specify they can only ever resolve this standard effect. Except in this situation, because this card is uniquely spelling out that yes, it can resolve this critical effect during a salvo attack. So this is so far the only exception. Okay, so how does this card work? Let's dive right in. So we're going to say that the Star Destroyer has already shot, like we'll say maybe the Starhawk is in a double arc. Yeah, we'll say that. So it's already been shot, and maybe it spent like a defense token and a salvo token, or not a salvo token. We'll say it spent some other defense tokens. Okay, perfect. All right, but then the second attack the Star Destroyer does, like, all right, well, in that attack, maybe we spent the salvo defense token. All right, so that Star Destroyer is done attacking. Now we are attacking back with our salvo, which the Starhawk version, it gets the 2 reds and a black. So let's go ahead and throw those 2 die here. And we see that we didn't get the red critical that we need, so I'm just going to fudge the numbers here just a little bit. All right, perfect. We got it. Hey, there, look at there. So again, this card needs a red or blue critical symbol showing. If that symbol is not showing by the time you get to the resolve damage step, you won't be able to utilize this card because, again, it's a critical effect. So you get to resolve damage step before you total damage or move on to do anything else. You say, aha, I have this card here. It says that I may exhaust this card as my critical effect to ready one of my exhausted defense tokens. So you take that card, you exhaust it by turning it sideways. You choose one of your defense tokens. I'm going to say my salvo defense token. I want to refresh it. Okay, perfect. And again, since this is my salvo attack, again, it says you can resolve this critical effect during a salvo attack. So now I'm doing, optimal damage, not optimal, but 4 damage back. I mean, that's pretty good. So that is how the officer version of Agate works. In its most basic form, pretty much you are getting attacked, or during salvo attack, or if you are attacking, pretty much just during an attack, as long as the attack is not against a squadron. Okay, this card does not work on squadrons. People have been assuming, and this is what happens when people make assumptions, is that they are assuming that this card works on squadrons. Absolutely not the case. And where are they taking that out of context? They're saying, oh, well, I can resolve this critical effect during a salvo attack, and I'm salvoing this squadron that just attacked me, so I can use this card. It says I can. Well, you still have to follow the standard rules of an attack, which clearly states that squadrons cannot suffer critical effects. It specifically says that in our RNG. So just because this card says you can resolve this during a salvo attack, it doesn't also say you can resolve it against squadrons. It would say that in there. It says, and you can also resolve this against squadrons. Because again, it's going by the logical conclusion that you understand the rules of the game, that it says you cannot resolve critical effects against squadrons unless otherwise stated. This is not otherwise breaking that rule. So no, this card does not work against squadrons when making any sort of attacks, okay? So just want to make sure, again, being clear on that, because some people are trying to twist the meaning of the card, and you can't do that. What are some other card effects that can block the nature of being able to resolve? Well, if somebody's got, for example, a damage control officer, and they use contain, they'll be able to block your critical effect. Again, remember, you don't exhaust Agate, the critical card, until you reach the resolve damage step, which is after the spend defense token step. So a lot of people make that mistake of like, oh, I exhaust this card and I do this critical ability, and they're doing it out of timing. But then the other person's like, well, I contain with my damage control officer, so you don't actually get to resolve any critical effects. And then people think like, oh, I already exhausted. And no. So, the defender always spends defense tokens first, and if they have damage control officer, it will stop you from resolving any critical effects, meaning that you couldn't have exhausted the card to start with. Okay, I think some of you guys got that. But pretty much if they got DCO, if they use contain, you cannot exhaust and use Agate's ability. All right. Kind of a less powerful version of damage control officer. We've got Commander Gerhert, something like that, which is pretty much if you're attacking a ship that's never attacked anyone else, and he's in play and not discarded, again, cannot resolve any critical effects. If you, as the attacker, have the face-up damage card Targeter Disruption, it says while attacking you cannot resolve critical effects. So again, a couple things here that play out that do that. I'm going to double check, make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, covered that, we covered that, covered it, great, we covered everything. So yeah, so I think she's great on Starhawks. I think potentially could also be good on assault frigates or maybe MC-80s. I really don't see where else you could see a lot of use for her card or that card. Definitely a place on a Starhawk because of the double officer seat though. But that is the card, that's the ability. And I really like it to refresh salvo tokens, because I just want to keep refreshing salvo tokens. You're going to keep shooting me? Well, I'm just going to keep blasting back. That's kind of my thought process behind it. But, of course, if you feel like I missed something or got something wrong, please be sure to point it out. Let me know. You guys are all fantastic. And, hey, I'll catch you next time.